Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that it's very interesting. Now, we've made weight loss adherence because that's essentially what we're talking about. Like you said, the fundamentals are straightforward enough. You're in a calorie deficit, therefore you'll likely lose weight. But we've made weight loss adherence this big trick, right? It has to be keto, it has to be Atkins, it has to be a 1,200 calorie a day diet. It has to be, you have to drink shakes instead of eating solids, just whatever. There's a magic secret that I think everybody who genuinely has some qualifications behind them, such as yourself, will go, actually, guys, come on, this is not what we need to do. It sells more books, I'll grant you that. I mean, we have a guy in the UK who keeps churning out a new diet book pretty much every year based around the 800 calories a day sort of thing.
Right.
And his books are very successful because they promise fast weight loss, right? But adherence is, of course, very low. So the following year, you just buy the new one because he tells you that that new book is going to be better than the old one was.
Indeed.
Someone
but
like
adherence is a mystery. I'm so sorry to interrupt you.
No, go for it. Yeah.
But honestly, without exaggeration, this is the best discussion I've had about this because you've dialed right in on it. Adherence is, and so that's what I wrote about. That's exactly what my book is about, is adherence. And my practice is about that too. Instead of trying to figure out all these different ways to package the same calorie restriction, I wanted to focus on exactly that, adherence, because it's clear that there are reasons that we cannot adhere, and they're not mental, they're not psychological, it's not a mind over matter issue. There are biological reasons why we cannot adhere. So I did this study with the hunger nerve freezing that was very famous and got all this press a couple of years ago. And what we did there was we blocked the nerve that carries the hunger signal from an empty stomach, right? And the purpose of that was to prove that if we blocked that hunger signal and people felt less hungry and they felt, it's not just hunger, but those signals also send you on survival-based food-seeking missions.
Right.
If you can imagine, the longer you go without food, how everything else will fall away until eventually that's all you're thinking about, right? So it's not just simply hunger, but we wanted to show that if we block that signal, people would have better adherence. People would have an easier time sticking to the diet, regardless of what the diet was. And so the purpose there was twofold. Number one, what you're saying, which is so great to hear, it's adherence that we need to be focusing on, not the package of the negative calorie restriction. And number two, it's a body thing. It's not mind over matter. We didn't implant willpower and then people had success. We blocked the body's signals that otherwise would stop people. So it really is a body issue. It's a biological issue. It's no different than heart disease or diabetes or any other condition in which we treat the body. So we need to address adherence, to your point. And the things that are blocking adherence, we need to stop saying that they originate in the mind, because they don't. They originate in the body.
So that's a really interesting point that you raised there, because I remember I went to school a long, long time ago, quite a lot of hair ago. And we were told that the human needs pyramid is food, shelter, and heat, right? Those are the foundations. Everything is built on that, so to speak. And I've never considered this before, so pardon me if I'm massively mistaken. But I suppose they are essentially primal drivers, so to speak, as in from our deepest monkey-like behavior. I need food, I need heat, and I need shelter.
Correct.
If we then start to restrict food to a large extent, I suppose what you're saying is then it's impossible to control the monkey even if we call it a monkey.
It's impossible. You're right. That's exactly the point. That's exactly the topic of the book. And this is the best podcast I've ever been on, because you got right to it. Because for some reason, it's a hard thing for people to comprehend or process this topic. And whenever I try to drill down on it, they kind of like, it's like Jello, like get over here and get over there. And they don't necessarily have an easy time drilling down and comprehending exactly what you just said. You just said it perfectly. I should have written it that way. You're exactly right. It is indeed impossible to resist. Now, every time I say that, I realize that there's some person out there who did it, right? They white knuckled their way through it, but that's one person out of 100 million, right? Or one person out of 1,000. Well, I'm not talking about that one person. I'm talking about the other 99%, right? The CDC has shown us that 50% of people in the United States alone failed a diet last year. That's 150 million people, right? Who aren't able to do it. If that's not evidence that it's impossible, I don't know what is. And like I said, somebody who hears this will then surface and say, it's not impossible, I did it. But I'm not talking about that one single outlier. And even the people who are successful, we know that most of them gain it back in the long run. And even the 1% of the 1% who keep it off, they're always fighting the same thing. I'll give you another example. I'll give you the hunger signal example, right? But there's another one.